Here we are with the brackets for the Scheel-Mann seats laid out on the kitchen floor. This is where a lot of projects occur, especially when you're doing seats. You need to be working on them somewhere where they're not going to get scuffed up, maybe on a garage floor or something, especially when you're talking about leather. So we want these to be nice by the time they get into the FJ. The Metaltech kit that you see in front of you, these are actually, this is the hardware and the kit to do both seats, the driver and passenger seat. And so I'm kind of going to zoom in here and show you some of these pieces here specifically, so you'll get a close-up before we start putting them together. So this is the Occupant OCS module, the bypass module, and as you can see, there's a little switch here also that we'll be installing in that switch blank as previously stated. Here is some brackets that are necessary for this kit to work with the Scheel-Mann seats, and you probably will be a little concerned when you see the instructions here that say that this kit is for the PRP seats, but in fact we're going to be using these additional bolts and these brackets here to install them onto the Scheel-Mann seats. So quite a bit of hardware involved, and I'm going to show you as we go along here of how this goes, and we'll start this process. Here is all the hardware laid out, and you definitely get your money's worth when it comes to the hardware, but yet there's more hardware in that bag. So this is the hardware that actually comes with the seats, and then this is the hardware that I believe is for the additional brackets because it was packaged separately. So yes, you're definitely going to want to organize all your hardware as we get ready to put these brackets together. And I'm going to put these brackets together, and I'm actually going to show you what I was able to, in the right light, the right lighting, I was able to look at these black and white instructions and pick out some really key features about how the orientation of these brackets are going to go. Instructions are not the best, so I always like doing these videos when I know I can be somewhat helpful to folks by doing a video and kind of being the bridge between the manufacturer and the end user. So that is definitely going to be the case here. So here is one set of brackets put together, and like I said, it's kind of hard to see in the videos or the instructions, that is, of how these go together. So that's why I'm kind of showing you this. Hopefully I'm not showing you wrong. So let's just get this out of the way. Alright, we have literally four sizes of washers, 4 sizes of washers, 4 sets or different sizes of lock washers, and then some washers in there. So when the instruction says to use 3H carriage bolts and some washers and some lock nuts, or some lock washers and then a nut, that's, yeah, I get the carriage bolt thing, but the rest of this, which washers? They don't give a size. The numbers of washers per this step don't correspond. There's some left over. So here's a hint for Metaltech: separate bags for each step. Okay, so that way when you say do step 7, there's a bag that says step 7, and then all the hardware is in step 7. So not hard to do. I know I'm going off on a rant here, but I always like how instructions say at the beginning that, you know, this is to be done by a professional. If you're not comfortable with it, then have somebody else do it. If a professional was to get these out, they'd have the same opinion. I'm not a professional, but today I am, because I'm working on my own truck. So there's not going to be anybody that's ever going to care about installation more than the person that's working on his own equipment. And I do have a good amount of skill sets. So yeah, this isn't the way it should be. So end of rant. back on mission here. We'll continue on. We'll see if I guessed correctly. I might have guessed correctly. That might be in fact the right washers and the right lock washers and nuts that are supposed to be. I know I got the carriage bolts, because guess what? There's only one set of carriage bolts, so one size. So I'm good there. I know that. All right, next step. All right, so come to the conclusion that these instructions, I might as well throw them in the trash. Yeah, so the bolt sizes, they only really mention like a couple different bolt sizes in there. One of them they just say 5/16. Don't give a length or nothing to help you reference. And then I measured out a couple bolts over there, and nothing really matched up to that. So all right, back on track. Let's talk about what I have done, and I don't know if it's right or not, so this is more just documentation of how things have been a struggle. So it doesn't mention anything about the seatbelt bracket on how to attach, which is pretty important in my opinion, since that's a life-saving feature of the seat. What I did was I put this bracket on here. There's a long bolt that goes in there, and you guys aren't going to be able to see that, but just keep in mind that there's a long bolt that goes in. The way the instructions reads is it wants you to use your original hardware here in the back, okay? And that original hardware looks like this with the T40, all right? So 2 of those went in there, and I'd keep everything loose. Everything needs to be loose at this point in time, because everything has to be lined up. The rails, the seat, you know, and then you can go back and get in there and tighten everything down, including the carriage bolts. So I used the T40s, but then on the other side is these different looking bolts, and that's what I used on the other side here with the seatbelt bracket. So one of them went there, one of them went in the back. I couldn't quite get the third one to line up, so there's only going to be 2 bolts back there. I might end up running a screw through there and putting a nut on the other side to make it more secure. So I don't know for sure about that. And then here, like I said, I couldn't really identify what bolt they were talking about specifically. So what I did was I used this combination here, which is, I hate even doing this because this isn't going to necessarily help you at all, but it's, let's see, it's 1 inch long. I think it's about only one of that diameter. The thing to keep in mind, it's going to be the same thread as your T40 bolts were, so match that thread up. So this is the size diameter of a bolt that you want. The ones that you took out that had the T40 on there, you're going to have some of those left over, but this section of the bracket is not threaded because that was part of the seat. So you're going to use a bolt, a washer, another washer, a lock washer, and then the nut. So over here we're going to be looking at the pile of lock washers that are like this size right here. I should have enough. Sorry about the shaky camera work here. I'm just trying to get everything in here together. I see 3. I don't know where the 4th one is. So, oh, I know. It's on my combination here. So, if you have not watched the 2 previous videos regarding the Scheel-Mann seats being installed in our FJ Cruiser, you may want to go back and check those out, because we do discuss a couple different things as far as the original seat removal, the electronics that's involved with installing these seats, and then finally this is more the physical installation of the seats, and we're going to be talking specifically about the mounting brackets. So this will be the final episode regarding the Scheel-Mann seats as far as the installation goes, but we will definitely be doing a full-blown trip review and making mention of those during rig walkarounds and during our trips to let you guys know how they're working out. So in this right before us here we have some mounting brackets that are produced by Metal Tech. And then we have some that are produced by Planted, and also with some Scheel-Mann sliders. So we actually have two different systems here. And let's preface the Metal Tech setup by saying that the Metal Tech setup actually uses the original sliders, and that's what you see there, the larger brackets there. Some of the original hardware, and then uses bracketry to adapt those to be able to be used with the Scheel-Mann seats. So originally these kits were produced for the PRP seats, and then two additional brackets here were manufactured to further adapt this kit so that it would be able to work with a top mounted seat. So there's two different types of seats. There's side mounted, which is what the PRP seats are, and then the Scheel-Mann seats are top mounted. So that's where the need for additional brackets came along. And so my attempt is to give you a little bit of education on how some of these aftermarket seats go in. That's what we've done in the previous videos, showing the electrics, the removal, and that type of thing. You will kind of be more aware of how this is going to go by watching these videos, and that's the intent. So let me talk a little bit about the timeline as far as installation of these seats, and I think it's fair to speak to it because what I'm going to say is factual. It's not opinion. It's not me trying to pick on Metal Tech or badmouth Metal Tech, and I just want to say that because, you know, like any business out there, you know, they're out there to make money. They're out there to produce goods that we want to purchase, and I think they do produce a large amount of goods that in the off-road community, and specifically for the FJ Cruiser, and many of us have those goods. So I definitely don't want to speak poorly of them in that regard because they've done a great job of doing that. Okay, so but let's talk about what has happened in this case. So these seats, as previously mentioned, can be purchased through Cruiser Brothers, and they really do offer a full solution as far as getting seats in your FJ Cruiser and other models out there. And when they had ordered these brackets, the seats, the kit did not come with everything. It was missing these two adapters to go from the PRP setup to the Scheel-Mann seat, the top mount seat. So those weren't included. So that was a big deal right away. We were missing two brackets. Also, the Occupant module, safety module, was also missing. So Cruiser Brothers did a good job of identifying to Metal Tech that, in fact, the module was missing and that these two brackets were missing. But the module showed up and these brackets didn't show up. So there needed to be even an additional communication to get these two additional brackets to show up. So that was a bit disappointing in the fact that Metal Tech just really wasn't doing a good job of shipping things out, and I guess there had been some issues that have been corrected since then. But the other, so there's that. There's the delay of items showing up and just really kind of a sloppy environment in that regards, and I'm just telling it how it is, that was the case. But also the fact is that the instructions that come with this are very poor at best, and I actually had made a previous video regarding that, but I really don't think it is something that you guys want to watch because there was a lot of frustration involved, and really I was bad-mouthing them in that video because the instructions are poor at best. They're not even worth showing. It's not going to get you there. And this is not going to be an installation video either because there just really is too many steps to go about getting them installed for me to show you step by step. I wish I could do that, but it's just not going to happen. The driver's side seat is already in, and I want to say that as much as it seems like this is a task to do these seats, it's really not. It just takes time. And when you sit in the driver's side seat, and I'll speak to it more later, the seats are awesome. I mean, you sit in them, They're super comfortable. The heated portion, if you get the heated option, is totally worth it. I literally sat there and listened to music for probably an hour in my FJ, and my back actually felt better after getting out of the FJ, sitting there for an hour listening to music, than it did when beforehand. So I think this is definitely going to be worth it, and we're really going to enjoy it. So what we're going to do, the goal here, is we're going to put together the Metal-Tech kit for the passenger side, and also I'm going to show you how the planted kit goes together. And as you can see, this replaces everything, and then you use the Scheel-Mann sliders. So this is a really much simpler setup. There's really just going to be a necessity for some additional bolts, but everything else is pretty much included. So that's what this portion is going to be, and then let me put them side by side and let you guys see that. Alright, here we are with the brackets built, and I'm going to show you more detail about the Metal-Tech bracket here in a second, so that way maybe it will kind of open your eyes to a couple things as far as where the bolts are going to go, just because, like I said, the instructions are very poor. So the bracket here, the planted bracket, it's a very simple setup, and there really isn't much to it. So I actually don't have the sliders bolted down yet to the planted platform, but this is how it's going to basically go. And the Scheel-Mann seats actually do come with some really nice stainless Allen head hardware that will go in the slider from the other side, and then you'll set the seats on there and slide them forward, then slide them back, and then run your hardware into the planted platform. So that's kind of how that would go, and then you just move the whole unit in there together. With the Metal-Tech setup, I want to make note of the difference in height. So the difference in height between the two is 2.5 inches, and so this is my general guideline, and I don't know this to be really that accurate, or I don't really want to have anybody use this as a steadfast guideline, but I'm 5'10". Like I said, the driver's side is already installed, and when I'm sitting there, it sits a little bit higher than I normally would like it. But the more I think about it, it's more about the height that I probably would have preferred the FJ to sit the seat-wise all the time. But the FJ Cruiser has a known problem that it bleeds down quite often. The air adjuster or the mechanism creeps its way down. So that's always been a problem with the FJ Cruiser. A lot of people know that. And this will not do that. There's no adjustment on the seat height, and that is one of the downside of aftermarket seats. But if you go into this knowing what your strategy should be with it, I think you'll be okay. I think if you're a person that is 5'10" or taller, the planted setup with the Scheel-Mann sliders is going to be the way to go. If you're somebody that is 5'10" or shorter, the Metal-Tech brackets for now are going to be the way to go. Now keep in mind, there's a lot of disadvantages of the Metal-Tech brackets, and the fact that they are a little bit more difficult to assemble in that regard, and the instructions really don't help you to get them completely assembled. And I actually got to switch around that seatbelt bracket over there. It's backwards. So for any of you that are actually paying attention, you would see that. The planted, you can use them, but it's just going to require you to put some type of spacer and use longer bolts to get it to elevate. So you very well could use like a piece of steel, C-channel steel, something like that. You know, you could buy a piece of 2-inch C-channel steel, or thick aluminum for that matter, if you wanted to lighten it up. As long as you think it's sturdy enough, I would imagine it'd need to be at least 1/4-inch wall C-channel to be sturdy enough and safe enough, and then have longer bolts. So that's just my observation. I'm actually going to use the Metal-Tech bracket here because my wife, being about 5'4", Hopefully I'm not wrong on that. That's gonna be kind of embarrassing if I'm gonna get in trouble later if I am. But I think she's about 5'4". And so the Metal Tech is going to be an easier choice for me to use it. So that's just something to keep in mind. And let me go ahead and get that seat mounted on there. Also just keep in mind too that the way to go about the Metal Tech, since we're talking about the Metal Tech, is that the brackets, you're going to actually want to take the adapter brackets off, which is these pieces here, and mount those to the seats, mount the base in the vehicle, and then take the seat with the brackets mounted on them and carry it over and lift it into the vehicle and set it on there and run your bolts in. So that's kind of the procedure to do that. And the reason why I know that is because I've already done the driver's side. Here's the detail of the bottom of the seat. And I just wanted to show this to you real quick. This is how the brackets will go on. So you'll use that hole and also that hole, and this is on the Metal Tech brackets is what I'm referring to. And you'll justify the brackets all the way to the rear. So just wanted to show you that detail real quick. We're almost ready to mount them up. Alright, there's the driver's seat over there and all installed. And like I was saying earlier in the video, this has already been installed for probably like a week or two while we were waiting on some additional parts. And over here is the passenger side bracket installed, and I actually had the seatbelt correct. I thought I had it backwards, but I actually had it correct. I'm going to tidy these wires up here underneath. Then one other thing I'm going to do, like I'd mentioned on the other side during the electric install, is I'm going to mount this through here, put a nut through there, so that way this relay will travel with the slider as it goes forward and back. And when lifting the seats in, just make sure that when you lift them in, that the brackets actually go to the outside of these brackets. Initially I kind of had some problems with the other side because I actually let it make its way to the inside of the bracket over there, and then I had to loosen everything back up and get it going the right direction. You do want to leave all these brackets loose, all these carriage bolts, even the side here, because it'll make it a lot easier to line things up and kind of square things up once you get the seat in place. And you'll still have access. You can get underneath the seat there with a wrench, a good combination wrench, and tighten everything down when you do. Alright, so the seats are in, and I have tested the heated seats on the passenger side and made sure that they work. Just kind of some final thoughts about the whole installation, and I won't go on too long about it because there really isn't too much more to say about the installation. It wasn't a hard project. I definitely think it's worth it. These seats are amazing. Literally until you sit in them, you will not really appreciate the difference between them and the OEM seats, and I know that our backs are going to appreciate them over the long haul. In case you're just now checking in and you haven't seen the previous videos, down there, let me get a light here so I can show you a little bit better, is where the heated controls went. So you can see them there, and also the occupant control module is there also. So they recess in there a little bit because of the way that those round switches go in. And the Metal Tech seat brackets are really good. I mean, they are sturdy. Other than the fact with the mix-up as far as the kit contents and then getting them sent, they're not bad at all. So I do want to reiterate that they're not a bad product. Finally did tighten up all the brackets here. It's pretty self-explanatory. Really an installation video would not do you any justice because you really just need to pay attention to what you're doing and everything will kind of make sense. The armrest, because of the Tuffy lockbox, as you can see there, the driver's side armrest went in just fine. The passenger side does not go in. So that's something to keep in mind when ordering. If you do have a Tuffy safe box like I do here, there's just not enough clearance to put in that passenger side. So keep that in mind that you do not want to order that. And my wife, when she gets in here, she'll adjust the seats completely to her liking. There's several different adjustments. There's 11 different adjustments that she can tweak these seats in perfectly, and then as we go down the road she can have that heat on, so that will also help her back. And looking forward to just hearing her comments when she sits in them, because she has not actually sit in these seats yet. I kind of wanted to wait until she had her seat that she could adjust before I let her finally try them. So if anybody has any questions, make sure to put them in the comments, and definitely like the video if you like this video, and make sure to subscribe. We're coming out with new videos all the time, and we definitely have a ton of new stuff to look forward to as this year goes on, and so you don't want to miss out on that. Thanks for watching. Everybody take care and be safe.